It's staph aureus that 90% of people with eczema actually have a colonization of staph aureus on their skin. And some of that can be due to poor probiotics on the skin and internally in the gut as well.
All right, everyone, what a special guest. Not all the time on this show do I have a longtime friend. Sometimes I do, but not all the time do I have someone I went to school with. I went to school with Dr. Diane Fong, and she is one of my favorite people. I mean, a lot of you don't know this. I came out to California to work with this here doctor. We worked in a Mountain View clinic. We saw patients coming in and out. So a lot of our lives, we have a really, really deep professional relationship, an awesome friendship. And we're going to talk about eczema. How many of you listening right now, viewing, have eczema? How about your kids have eczema? And how many times have you gone to the doctor and they go, okay, well, we're going to give you this corticosteroid and we're going to put it on. It's going to reduce inflammation and you'll be fine. Probably a lot of you. Guess what? We got some answers. We got the answers you've been looking for right now on the show with Dr. Diane Angela Fong. She's a naturopathic doctor. She's a CEO and founder of Clean Body, a wellness company dedicated to treating and preventing chronic diseases. Dr. Fong studied molecular cell biology at UC Berkeley, the prestigious, and worked as a researcher in the lab at UC Berkeley and Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. And finally, attended naturopathic medical school at University of Bridgeport, where I went to, College of Naturopathic Medicine. Dr. Diane Fong, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming. It's so nice because a lot of people don't know. You're an elite level right now. This is number 3 you've been on Heal Thyself.
Yes.
This is only a small few of people have been there.
Oh,
for 3.
That makes me feel really special to be here.
Well, listen, you know, you got a lot of charisma. You're so relatable, but you have a lot of knowledge, especially in a lot of the things that we're suffering with, including eczema. And that's what we're going to talk about. And I got a question about eczema right off the bat. A lot of people out there are suffering with eczema. A lot of kids are suffering with eczema, and they're going to the doctor. They're getting this cream, and then when they stop the cream, it all comes back. You've done this for many years, and I know you have so much knowledge. What are some of the major roots of eczema that you're not talking about in conventional offices right now?
I think it's really interesting. Over the last 50 years, we have seen such an increase in atopic disease like eczema. And, you know, the first question is, why are we seeing this? Why are we seeing such a rise in eczema? A lot of kids are being born with eczema. You know, my sister, a lot of her friends, almost all of them, including my sister, her child also had eczema, right? Like, I feel like everybody is coming out with eczema, and it's just this normal disease we're now dealing with. And I think, of course, in conventional medicine, we're just dealing with it with topical steroids, with now Dupixent and biologics, which have all these side effects that we could do a whole podcast on by itself. But we really need to understand what the root cause issues are. And even conventional medicine is starting to look into this. They're actually looking into some of these root causes. And the first one that I think is so important to talk about is microbial imbalances and the microbiome, right? It's such a big topic nowadays because we're learning so much about the microbiome. And so that first one is microbiome imbalance. And even biotech companies are putting millions of dollars into this because we are seeing that using things like antibiotics for staph aureus, which is something that's really prevalent in eczema, is really not the way to go. We really need to be thinking about seeding those good probiotics to help the skin. So microbial imbalance is number 1. Number 2 is toxic burden. And that's something we've talked about on podcasts before. That's a big one for me, the funnel, and how when that funnel overflows, things really start to happen, including skin disease. Number 3 is leaky gut. And that's something we've talked about. Number 4 is leaky skin. And there's a concept of leaky skin where the barrier of the skin is really weak. Number 5 is poor nutrition, which, you know, is something that we naturopaths do really well. And then poor lifestyle. And in that, I include things like stress and not exercising, not moving your lymphatic system.
You said leaky skin. Ain't nobody talking about leaky skin. We got to talk about leaky skin right now. Okay. What barrier? What's happening? Where's the leaking coming from? And what is the implication of having leaky skin?
So first of all, I think there's a really interesting concept called the gut-skin axis. And I don't know if a lot of people are talking about that either, but there is, you know how we think about the gut-brain axis, gut-brain, there's the gut-skin. And we're finding so many correlations with the gut when you have leaky gut, that there could be leakiness in the skin for one thing. And that can be due to the microbiome imbalances that we also experience in the gut. We also can experience those microbiome imbalances on the skin, and that could be one of the causes of leaky skin. But the other thing we find is that some people do have a genetic variant in a gene called FLG, and that causes a flagrin deficiency. And flagrin really helps us to hold in water in our skin. It helps to create that really nice barrier. And so, that is part of the genetic piece of eczema. And yes, that could be one of the things that's happening that can cause people to have leaky skin. But the other thing that we also need to think about, something that we probably can do something more about, is that correlation between the leaky gut and the leaky skin.
And I know people are like, well, I want to test my flagrin levels. Can we do that? Or how do
It's not really something we're testing right now. It's really used more for research purposes. So there really isn't a test out there right now necessarily. But there are some genetic companies where you could, I think there's one called Gene DX or something like that, and they might do that test, but it's not really a common test that people do. But we're kind of talking about it in research about thinking about doing those types of tests for people to see if they might have a predisposition to atopic dermatitis or eczema. But, for me, looking at genetics, it's kind of, for me, I think thinking about epigenetics is more important. Yes, we might have these predispositions to not creating enough flagrin, but I think there's all these environmental and lifestyle and nutritional aspects that could really help us in terms of even promoting more flagrin, like L-histidine is a supplement or even a food source that you can use to maybe support more flagrin production. So
for those people maybe tuning in now, viewing and listening, what about eczema? What's happening in the skin when eczema is going on?
Yeah, so there's so many things that are happening, but I think the microbial imbalance piece is really important to think about. So talking about the weakened skin barrier, right, with flagrin deficiency. So where does it begin? Does it start with genetics where you have that weakened barrier and now you don't have a great amount of probiotics on the skin because of that weakened barrier? The other thing with the weakened barrier, just like leaky gut, we can see that chemicals leak into the system more easily. And so where does it begin? Is it the genetics? Is it the environmental? I think it's a little bit of both a lot of the times. But microbial imbalance is a big one. And it's staph aureus that 90% of people with eczema actually have a colonization of staph aureus on their skin. And some of that can be due to poor probiotics on the skin and internally in the gut as well.
The staph aureus is usually on the skin?
So staph aureus is actually a bacteria that we can have in our guts, but when it colonizes the skin and when it overgrows, unfortunately, staph aureus can, they release basically super antigens and products that create more skin inflammation. And those things can cause a worsening of the eczema. And oftentimes when someone's having a flare, they can actually have a staph aureus infection on their skin. Now, conventionally, we deal with that by giving people antibiotics. And unfortunately, the antibiotics do not discriminate, right? The antibiotics will cut out all the good guys and the bad guys. And what we really want to do is really kind of target that staph aureus and then proliferate the good guys.
Okay, so how do we start proliferating them good bacteria on our skin?
So one thing that I am actually releasing soon is it's called a clean skin kit. And these are some things that I've really found to be really helpful for promoting good bacteria on the skin and eradicating the staph aureus. And the first thing is called hypochlorous acid. And hypochlorous acid is it's actually naturally something we produce in our bodies. Our immune system, the neutrophils, which are a white blood cell in our system, create the hypochlorous acid in response to pathogens being in our body, things like bacteria and viruses. And the hypochlorous acid will actually selectively kill staph aureus within 1 to 10 minutes of application on the skin. So it's really great. I think in conventional medicine, we're using a lot of antibiotics. We're actually using bleach baths. I don't know if that's something you know. So, but the hypochlorous acid is nice because it's something our bodies actually create on its own. And there are some additional effects that are really great. It actually lowers inflammation, lowers itchiness, and even helps tissue regeneration. So it's a really nice tool that I like, and it's something that is going to be in the kit that I'm creating for my patients. And then the other thing I really like is topical probiotics, just talking topically, because there's a lot of things we can do internally, but talking topically, I also love topical probiotics. And a recent review in 2023 actually showed that there have been multiple randomized clinical trials that are showing that topical probiotics have reduced the severity of eczema. And I've been testing out a product for my kit that's been working really well with my patients, like within a day or two, like staph infections and inflammation just all coming down. So really awesome.
Giving the body a break to start healing, right? Because it's so inflamed. And so when we look at children, right, like, is it that they're colonized with bacteria from their mom and it's already dysbiotic and unhealthy? Or why are so many kids having eczema versus adults?
So I think there's a number of factors. I think one, mothers, our microbiome is not very healthy many of the time. And we're taking antibiotics even while we're pregnant and wiping out good bacteria. Prior to pregnancy, we're taking antibiotics. And I think antibiotics are a big one. I think we're also consuming a lot of sugar and processed foods. And sugar selectively feeds those poor bacteria. When you eat really good fiber, you're actually selectively feeding good bacteria, like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, right? So I think one, it starts with mom. Number two, when our kids are born, we're now giving them formula. And I think that's another thing in the last 50 years that's really happened that may be also affecting our children, because the probiotics are given through mom as well, through the breast milk. And then C-section babies. C-section babies are not getting those great probiotics through the birth canal, because that's another way we as babies get a really good microbiome. And then antibiotics, right? If we're born with a poor microbiome, we are likely, and then given formula, I see a lot of correlation with formula, C-section babies, poor microbiome, and then getting a lot of ear infections, and now a lot of antibiotics. And there's just kind of this cascade of things that's starting to happen on the microbiome spectrum. Then on the other spectrum, there's toxins. And I think there's a really interesting concept, kind of an emerging concept called allergotoxicology. And this is the interplay between allergies and toxins, and how toxins can stimulate allergies. And I think we as mothers, again, have a lot of toxins we're carrying, unfortunately, and we're transferring that into baby through the placenta and through our breast milk. And then when babies are born, they are then being exposed to the 7 million toxins we have out there in the world floating around.
Yeah. And then on top of that, mom's dysbiotic, her gut's a mess. And I mean, like, we really look at that picture that you painted and then we go, oh, well, they have eczema. Yeah. Like, I'm not surprised at that point. So we look at this big picture, and back to that allergotoxicology. That's saying that, like, if I'm particularly sensitive to a toxin that's being released somewhere in my home or my environment or somewhere outside, that can cause eczema. Have you been struggling with mood swings, like getting really irritated by the simplest things? You know that feeling? Someone's not quick enough to respond your email, or your partner leaves dishes in the sink. I know a lot of you out there know that one. You feel like your hormones could be out of whack, like you haven't been sleeping well, or stressing a lot, or craving foods you're not used to craving as much, or even your skin, your hair, your muscles, they feel just different. I'm gonna talk to you about a game-changing mineral, and this is gonna make you feel your best. It really is. Magnesium is something that is so depleted in so many of us. And it's an absolute must for keeping your hormones balanced and body functioning, just overall optimization of you. Here's the thing. Most of us aren't getting nearly enough from our diets alone. And when you're deficient in this vital mineral, it can throw your entire system out of sync. And in addition to hundreds of other chemical reactions, magnesium plays a vital role in hormonal balance, glucose metabolism, and managing symptoms across different stages of life. This makes magnesium supplementation a great support option for all ages. That's why I'm super excited to tell you about Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. The unique formula contains 7 different forms of highly bioavailable magnesium, including magnesium orotate, which is amazing for the metabolic health and hormonal health we're talking about. It also supports your hormonal health by supporting sleep, digestive health, and stress management. Nourish your brain and your body with Magnesium Breakthrough right now. Go to bioptimizers.com/DRG and use the promo code DRG10 to get 10% off your order. That is bioptimizers.com/DRG with the code DRG10 for 10% off of any order. If you've been taking a closer look at the products in your life and making big changes to choose healthier options, don't forget about one of the most important areas where you spend a third of your life. That's the mattress. All of us know how crucial sleeping is for our overall health and well-being, but did you know that materials in your mattress can have major impacts on the quality of your sleep? Many traditional mattresses are loaded with harmful chemicals and materials that are going to disrupt your rest and even your long-term health. That's why years ago, I made the switch to Birch mattress, about 3 years ago, and it's the best mattress out there. I have not found a better mattress. Maybe now there are really good ones out there, but this has been the top of the game for a long time. It's GOTS and Green Guard Gold certified brand. Birch uses only natural, non-toxic materials like organic wool and latex. This ensures that my sleep environment is free from polyurethane foams, harsh chemicals, and other pollutants. The difference has been a life changer. I'm a deep sleeper, waking up more refreshed and just generally feeling better day to day. And with Birch's 100-night sleep trial, 25-year warranty, flexible financing options, it's an investment in my health that is easy to make. If you're serious about optimizing your well-being, head to birchliving.com/heal-thyself to learn more. Take advantage of the current sale with 20% off site-wide plus 2 free Eco Rest pillows with any mattress purchase. For your healthier sleep, go to birchliving.com/heal-thyself.
So I think there's a really interesting hypothesis that was developed in 2009, and it was developed by this group led by, I think his name was like McFadden. And it's called the hapten-atopy hypothesis. And I think it really kind of, when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like what I think has been happening. And I love this hypothesis where, so haptens are basically chemicals and environmental pollutants that by themselves, if they're just in your body, they may not produce an immunogenic response. So basically like an immune response. But if they combine with larger particles like proteins, they may create this allergenic response. And they can do that with proteins that are on the skin. So I think it's a really interesting concept that toxins may actually cause this immune response, along with other factors like putting burden on the liver and putting burden on the gallbladder and all the detox systems. And so this hypothesis basically says that when we're exposed to all these toxins through mom, through the environment, through our skin because we have leaky skin, through our guts because we have leaky gut, we're actually eliciting this immune response. And so I think, a lot of people are like, oh, I need to avoid this because I have an allergy to it. Yeah. And I think that allergy is really just indicative of an overflow of all those toxins and the fact that now the body is now creating all of this immune response to the 7 million toxins we are exposed to every single day. And so it's creating this immune response, which is then creating eczema. And specifically in this hapten-atopy hypothesis, these toxins are connecting with the proteins on the skin to create all this inflammation on the skin. Yeah.
So conventionally then, what is the theory for eczema? Is it just immune dysregulation? And it's
immune dysregulation, right? So like if you use Dupixent is really down-regulating interleukins like IL-4, which create a lot of inflammation. So when you're using these medications, biologics, for example, they're targeting these different cytokines that are just causing inflammation. So you're kind of targeting at the end.
Yeah.
And I want to target at the beginning. The beginning is the toxic exposure and the microbial imbalance are 2 big ones that I've really found that I think we don't think about. I think mostly we think like, okay, we know maybe we have to change our diet. Yeah. We have to do some of these things, but kind of bringing it down to the core. I think even eating a healthy diet is about not exposing yourself to toxins. It's about not feeding your bad microbiome, right?
Yeah.
Your bad bacteria.
Yeah, that's what we have power for that day to day, but we have to think about the bigger picture, and it's our gut bacteria, it's our microbiome, and it's also the toxins that we're exposed to. We don't think about that enough. So, we do these biologics and then great, like the inflammation's going down. You might get cancer though, right? It's pretty
there's
wild.
so many. I spoke to one person who, with Dupixent, one of the side effects are eye problems. And I spoke to one person who had I think it was one injection and she ended up 95% blind.
That's crazy.
So there's some serious, and I think sometimes those medications for emergency situations, I think they can be useful. But the thought that you're going to silence it forever with one medication, eventually, I think around the 2 or 3 year mark, when people are on Dupixent, for example, it ends up not working anymore.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't really work all the way. Oh yes, the skin is better, but you still got some inflammation somewhere.
You mentioned the nutrition. Do we know, I know you said some fiber for the gut bacteria. Are there any other nutrients that we know will help our skin and help reduce that inflammation?
I think some of the key ones I think people are deficient in. I would say vitamin D. I think that's a big one. And one of the things we need to do for that is get out in the sun, right? And a lot of eczema people don't like to be in the sun because it hurts the skin.
Yeah.
So I think that's, something that people may want to think about supplementation for that, or doing things like cod liver oil. I think omega-3s are another big one. I just don't think we eat them in our diet enough. And so that's another one I think about testing for people, and then maybe supplementing if their diet doesn't allow for more omega-3s. I think those are 2 big ones that I found, and maybe 2 of the main ones. Even through different studies and things like that, you'll see a lot of research on those too.
So start ingesting those foods, reducing the inflammation in the body. We're starting to get a bigger picture, viewers and listeners. Now check this out. A lot of you have this picture of eczema, but we need a more comprehensive picture. We're starting to get some drip drops of it, starting to see a bigger picture now. Do you see an emotional component to eczema?
Absolutely. So we haven't talked about it, but I became a naturopathic doctor because I had severe eczema, and I had it since I was born. And part of it was toxic exposure. Part of it was a really poor diet, not exercising enough, etc. But for me, 50% of it was actually emotional. And it was traumas I needed to really work through, and emotional things that were happening to me on a daily basis, even stress-wise, that I didn't realize were related to traumas in my past from when I was a child. And even traumas that were my mom's traumas that I was carrying with me as well too. So whenever I'm evaluating a patient, I'm always evaluating that in the first visit as well. And I find that a lot of people with really severe eczema have a similar, some kind of trauma or emotional baggage they're carrying that they often don't realize is associated with their eczema. And I think it's really interesting. And then we start to delve into it, and people really start to realize their skin starts to get better, even just doing the emotional piece alone, even if we don't address anything we've talked about so far today.
The emotional piece.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever connect an emotion? Did you find a specific emotion connected to eczema?
Yeah. Anger, I would say. And sometimes it's suppressed anger, where other people and you even don't realize it's there. But as you start to unravel the picture, you realize you have all these resentments and anger towards people, and difficulty forgiving. Ooh. Difficulty forgiving, I think, is a big one. So I often help people to come to that place. Because, when you don't forgive someone, it's only hurting you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. You're eating that up. That nervous system dysregulation is a lot of time just you holding on to it, right? And
yeah.
I knew you were going to say anger. I was waiting for that to come out because, you think about, but like you said, like a dangerous anger. That's the anger where you don't even know you're angry.
Yeah.
But, some people are just like, yeah, I'm pretty damn angry. I'd rather hear that from someone than someone who's like, I don't know. I don't get angry. And then you're like, oh my God, there's a volcano in there,
Yeah.
So we think about how that expresses in the system. There has to be a component, that psychosomatic component, when it comes to something like eczema. Would you say even next to eczema, like skin diseases in general, people who have those irritations, inflammations in the body, would you say that it also has an emotional component?
So in Chinese medicine, for the liver, we say anger, resentment, it kind of all resides there. And I think in skin disease, liver is such a big organ. From the physical to the emotional, I think it's really important. In psoriasis, I've really found a large component in kind of like a self-destructive, because psoriasis is a lot more autoimmune in nature, kind of a self-destructive kind of anger component as well too. And I think in other diseases, it may not be as, acne, I think there could be a little bit of that. But I would say eczema and psoriasis, I really see it blaringly there. And psoriasis, I think there hasn't been one psoriasis case I have seen, adult case, where there wasn't really a trauma or emotional component.
Big time.
Yeah.
With so many autoimmune diseases, right? When we go back to eczema, we touched on this the last time we spoke, was the heavy metals piece, the toxin piece. When you say toxins, are we talking about like hormone disrupting toxins, the heavy metals, which can disrupt your hormones? Are there any specific ones that are out there that you're like, oh, hey, if you have eczema, you got to stay away from at least these?
Yeah. So I see heavy metal wise, I see in my patients lead, mercury, arsenic, uranium, and nickel are really kind of, and aluminum, I would say, are 6 of the big ones I find when I test. Almost all my patients get tested for heavy metals. And so where are these things coming from? Arsenic from rice, lead I find through kind of piping in the plumbing for a lot of people. Mercury is amalgams a lot of the time, and even fish. Aluminum, deodorant, and things like that. And then arsenic and uranium, also I see a lot in the tap water. So we identify those things, we take them out in terms of exposures, and then we do have to do cleansing on heavy metals. And there's so many different types. We actually have 6 cleanses different types of cleanses at Clean Body, because everyone needs a little something different. And depending on how old you are, how severe your condition is, there's different ways of doing it through IR sauna, through chelation. There's a lot of different ways, but it's really hard for someone with eczema to do sauna. So sometimes we kind of have to kind of create something that works for an individual.
There's a lot of people who go, oh, I got to do a detox now. And they go straight to it. Is that problematic if just going straight to a detox? Like, are there steps that we're missing?
Definitely. So I think it can be really dangerous actually for someone with skin disease to go straight to, a 3-day cleanse, a 7-day cleanse, a 14-day kind of detox in a box kind of thing, because oftentimes their drainage systems are not open. And so at Clean Body, when we start to give you support, we actually have 3 levels. You start with core support, making sure you have nutrition and everything that's basic that you need to have all your organs functioning. The second phase is we start draining the systems. So we start supporting your kidney, your liver, your gut. All of these are what I call the drainage organs. These help get toxins out of the body. And that's not really detox. That's just making sure that those organs are working the way they need to and they have everything they need to do the job. And then finally, phase 3 is, okay, now let's cleanse you. We've identified what toxins you have. And sometimes we don't even need to do severe cleanses by the time people finish 1 and 2. Because 1 and 2 is supporting your systems to do the job. And hopefully your systems can do that. But then there are people who have very severe toxicity, mold, parasites, heavy metals, which by the way are other microbes that cause toxic exposure, parasites and mold, where we actually need to cleanse those items. But if you start there, your systems are not open and ready to go. You are just going to have more overflowing of your funnel, and you are going to have severe, symptoms, likely detox reactions, or we call them Herx reactions. And I've known someone who did, a popular cleanse that's out there, and she had eczema and she ended up in the ER, on day 3 of that cleanse. And then she ended up seeing me right after, like calling me saying, hey, we need to get on your schedule. So we say, okay, yeah, we'll get you on. Because it can be dangerous. Your body's just not ready for that process yet.
Yeah. And detox in a box, you said it right. Like there's people who are just quickly going, and you look online, they're like, hey, I'm doing a 3-day detox, 5-day, 7-day. And I go, oh my God, like we're not even working on like you to have a clean body, the first 2 steps where we got to like first get the foundational stuff, right? We got to get the emunctories flowing. We got to get them clean. We got to have to open up those routes of detoxification. How long does it usually take just to set up before a detox? You find yourself feeling sluggish, fatigued, mentally foggy during the day. I know a lot of you have. I know a lot of you are right now actually listening to this. You may not be getting the right balance of electrolytes that your body needs. I'm going to introduce you to my favorite one across the board. That is LMNT. It's the essential electrolyte drink designed to restore optimal hydration. And after years of hearing to cut back sodium, new research reveals a lot of us actually need more sodium, not less, especially for those who are super active in fasting, or if you're on a keto diet or paleo diet or low carb diet or vegan diet, whatever it is. Without proper electrolyte balance, your performance and energy levels are going to suffer. Element has created a perfect zero sugar, all natural formula to get your electrolytes where they need to be. It's a 1-stick pack, contains 1,000 milligrams of sodium for high quality sources, along with potassium, magnesium, and other essential minerals. I personally felt the difference Element provides. My mind feels sharp, my body feels energized, and I don't get muscle cramps even when training hard or sweating. It's clean hydration that works. I want you to reclaim your energy, reclaim your focus, and your performance today with Element. Go to drinkelement.com/DRG to claim your free sample pack for Heal Thyself listeners only. That's you. That's drinklmnt.com/DRG. Optimize your hydration now with the power of proper electrolyte balance.
Yeah, so we have a program that's 4 months long. And we typically, in the first month, focus on the core. And if you really dedicate yourself and commit yourself to doing those things, by month 2, you could be ready for the drainage part. And that really means cleaning up the nutrition, cleaning up the lifestyle, getting your body moving so that your lymphatic system can flow, because that's part of your exit as well too. So by month 2, you could be ready for the drainage part. And typically, I would say 1 month of helping the drainage organs work better, you will then be ready for cleansing. So 2 months, I would say at the minimum, to kind of prepare for a cleanse. And by that 2-month mark, the reason we know you're ready for a cleanse is that you're already getting better. So if you are a 10 out of 10 on day 1, and we actually ask our patients to log their progress every week. So we know so they started at 10, next week they're at 8, and then a 7, and we want to see those numbers fall. And I typically don't like to get someone into a cleanse until they're at least 30% better from where they started. So if they were a 10, maybe they're now down to a 7. Okay, now we're ready, because we know since your symptoms have come down, you are ready to maybe handle a cleanse, right? Yeah. And sometimes they're even like a 2 by the time they even do 1 and 2, because you've just opened everything up and then everything starts to get better.
You guys heard it first. Minimum, what, month and a half, 2 months?
I would say 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
And we're over here doing detox. Listen, slow down. Take it easy, right? You got some time, but you want to do it gentle. You don't want to overwhelm your body. You definitely don't want to be having a Herxheimer reaction where you just can't even get out of bed and you're got to miss work and you're feeling like crap. You mentioned parasites. You mentioned mold. How big of a role do parasites have with eczema?
I see it. I would see it maybe 30% of the time in our patients, where we actually find the parasite, where we see it in a test. Now, what I would say about that is sometimes the tests don't find the parasites as well too. And we know that they're there because even the patient has seen worms in their poop, right? And so we just treat accordingly sometimes when we kind of know they're there, maybe through, symptoms, and then actually through seeing it macroscopically. But when we find it on a test, I would say about 30% of the time. But I would say that I have seen a lot of patients who are like, oh yeah, I read it. I'm supposed to do a parasite cleanse, so I'm just doing it.
Right.
And I think it can be very dangerous to do that when you haven't identified that there's a parasite, either through testing, which is the best way I would say, but maybe through clinical observation as well with a licensed professional, right? And if you're just doing a parasite cleanse, I think it could be pretty dangerous to do that. And what I find is people will do that for long periods of time, thinking it's going to help them. And that can be detrimental to your microbiome as well.
You heard it here second. first, for the second time, we talk about parasite. Man, this is it. Like, stop jumping on those parasite cleanses. We're going crazy here, right? And they're getting really popular.
Yeah.
Mold, big one. Listen, my God, I've suffered with mold, and there's people that I know. I looked at 2 places today, and I walked in and I walked out. I said, I smell like mold. I can't see the rest of this place. She goes, really? I go, yeah. Second place, same thing. And right up the street, a lot of people suffer with mold, and it's affecting our health. A lot of people don't even know it's the mold in their house. It's the cause of so much. How much of a role does mold have to play with eczema?
So mold is bigger. I think it's... I find mycotoxins in almost all my eczema patients. So mycotoxins are the toxins that are released by the mold. And there are different mycotoxins, some that indicate mold more through food exposure. And then there are mycotoxins that are more through building exposure. Almost always, I will see some mycotoxin exposure through food. And I would say the ones that come from building, I would say maybe 40 to 50% of my patients. So a larger number. And I think the reason for that is, our buildings are made with cheaper materials nowadays, more and more that's happening. And mold is becoming an increasing problem in our buildings, in our offices. And it's something that people are not paying attention to.
Yeah, because a lot of people are going, we evolve with mold and you should be good. And then you think to yourself, cheaper buildings, more mold, but also whatever is off-gassing from those cheap materials combined with those mycotoxins, that's a problem, right? Because years ago, right? Like, let's say 1950s before, it was different. They were building with proper, heavy materials. I just saw, and on top of that, we went on a walk and it was raining and I have my umbrella and I look and I see the foundation of this new home and it's being poured on.
Oh my goodness.
Like poured on. And I was like, what? And then it's going to dry up, but it's still going to be wet. It's going to take a long time. It's going to grow mold and then they're going to build over it. So here are things that we don't even think about that could be affecting our skin on different levels, different sorts of skin diseases. But mold, a bigger one than say the parasites, huh?
Yep.
Big one. Okay. So we have the emotional component. We talked about the nutrition. We got the toxins, the mold, the parasites. Am I missing anything here?
So at Clean Body, we have this idea called the Clean Body Pillars of Health. And I think there's a lot of other lifestyle components we need to think about, like getting good sleep and all of that. I think the basics really, but they play a really big role. I think, that getting good sleep is when you heal and drinking enough water. And I think moving the lymphatic system is so important. So getting movement in. And I think more often than not, when I see any eczema patients who are adults, they're not moving at all. They're literally not moving because it hurts them to move. So I often recommend to those people to do some lymphatic drainage activities, whether it be massaging the lymphatic system. I actually like people to use massage guns and just like put it on the areas that are super itchy, because often those itchy areas are where the lymphatic system is the most congested. So I like that, and other things like, using a vibration machine or even rebounding if you can't do a full-on workout are things that I really like. So we call that clean routine, where create a routine for yourself where you are dealing with all of those 4 exits. And so the 4 exits from are your poop, your urine, your skin, and your breath. So you're breathing, deep breathing and meditation on a daily basis. You're drinking enough water. You're pooping, all of those emunctories, as you used that term earlier. And you need to think about this. Have I done these things today? Have I done something to release toxins from all directions? Because when we have eczema, our system is really burdened. So poop is not enough, urine is not enough. We also want to think about releasing through skin if we can, like IR sauna, I love. So sweating, although that can be difficult for people with eczema in the beginning too, you know? And then we talked about people with kids. I love for them to do the lymphatic massages. Just get in there and just massage towards the heart. That can really help move that system.
Oh, I love that. We talk about the lymphatic system, man. One of my favorite ones. I love that. And like getting a rebounder, you said, if you can't go to the gym, just jump on a rebounder, get it moving every single day. And I love that you said learning how to breathe. A lot of us are in that, you know, we don't realize that the nervous system, the immune system are connected intimately, and the microbiome, they're all interplaying with each other. So learning how to breathe is going to be really important, because if that diaphragm's stuck, you know, we're in that sympathetic state, and what's our telling our bodies we're not safe, and our nervous system, and then we're just perpetuating the cycle of inflammation in our body. So yeah, I love that. So we got this big picture. I love that we've empowered people with eczema. Viewers and listeners, if this is vibing with you, I wish we were streaming and I could just say, give us a thumbs up right now. It'd be dope if we could have comments in front of us and answer questions. Yeah. Maybe we'll make this a stream show one day. Awesome. So how can people find you? What like, you have the Clean Body program. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of resources that people can access. I just am releasing a new guide called the Clean Skin Eczema Guide. It's free. And basically a lot of these root cause issues we were talking about today, I break down all the studies, I break down the testing. Like, how can you understand if you might have these root cause issues? And we're not saying everybody has all of the root cause issues we talked about today, right? Someone might have mold, someone might have parasites, someone might have none of those, and it's just lifestyle, it's just nutrition. So that guide, it's a free guide, and you guys can access it at cleanbody.health/eczema guide. And then I'm releasing that Clean Skin Kit, which includes some of the things we talked about today, like topical probiotic, hypochlorous acid, and a protection barrier ointment that kind of replaces those more unhealthy, like Vaseline, Aquaphor, that has mineral oil and petroleum. And then some of the natural ones have soy and other things in there. So it's soy-free, coconut-free, etc. So that's a really great resource for people to just kind of use topically, with the caveat of topical is not the answer. Right. It's kind of something that'll help you as we're working on the internal environment. And so, and then we offer a membership, which if you guys want to access that, if you guys use Heal Thyself, it's 30% off, and you guys can just find this all on cleanbody.health. And then lastly, like, if you're really interested in getting evaluated and really understanding, you know, what are the root causes for you specifically, I do a discovery consultation. It's actually me that you'll meet. And it's a 25-minute consultation where I just kind of understand your story, listen to your story, which a lot of doctors don't do, and just kind of, okay, these are the things I think we would need to evaluate for you. These are the tests we need to run. And this is what treatment might look like, you know? So that you can, again, find on the website, and 30% off with Heal Thyself. And we actually offer a free money back guarantee on that, which means if you don't feel like you've gotten some answers in that consultation, we'll just give you your money back. No questions asked.
I love that. Listen, like I said, a lot of you don't know, me and Dr. Fong, we work together. And I seen you I seen you with the patients behind that door. You're in there hour and a half. They're coming out, and their eyes are bright because they finally have hope. They finally go, oh my God, somebody like listened to me, and that actually validated what I'm going through, and actually has given me direction. That's the best feeling for anyone who's suffering with stuff. She's the real deal. Go check her out. Thank you so much, Dr. Fong, for coming on the show, for being a mentor for me in school and out of school, and just doing what you do. A lot of people are suffering with these skin diseases, and my God, you're bringing the health, the reducing the itchiness, and the beauty back to our lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.